All right, thanks for tuning in to another episode on Guardian Safe and Lock. This time I've got Brian with me, and today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to fix a worn key. So usually on automotive keys is when this comes into play. I mean, it comes into play in all kinds of different types of locks, but usually in automotive, the reason being is when you're rekeying a cylinder and it's worn, you can just add a little height to the pin stack and that'll fix the key, especially if it's no master key system or anything on a residential or commercial lock. But in case of an automotive vehicle, worn keys snag up in the door locks a lot and they snag up in the ignition, and that's why we were going to try to rekey a door cylinder for a customer. One of these right here. Open that up. We're going to try to key up one of these door cylinders for a customer, but because there's so much wear on the key, it doesn't match the increments it's supposed to. And the reason being, you have to think about it, is every time you put a key into a lock, the key rubs against those aluminum wafers over and over and over every time, and it makes a wear. It makes a wear in the bottom of the wafer, it makes a wear on the key. So, and it may wear one side more than the other, it just depends. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and decipher this key, and then we're gonna key up that door cylinder to the key. So Brian's gonna go ahead and decipher the key on the HPC machine, which we can put a link up here for what kind of key cutting machines there are, because this is a HPC Blitz. And what he's basically going to do is he's going to just compare it up to a card. I'll show you the card over here, and I'll show you how the cards work while he does that. So depending on what type of vehicle or what kind of key it is that you're using, this is just one for an ASA. You have your left to right, just like on a normal key. You'd have your left to right of where the cut is placed, and then your height, how deep is the cut going to be. So left to right where the cut is going to be, and then how deep the cut is going to be. And that's what these cards that go in the machine that Brian's using here does, is it basically lets you, depending on the type of key, determine how deep to cut all these cuts. So all he's doing is he's not actually turning the machine on, because he's just rolling the, if you look over here, he's just rolling the key across as he compares it to where it should be on the depth chart, and from there he's writing down all the different depths and things like that. So Brian's deciphered the key, he's got the cuts for it, but let me show you something on the worn key here. Okay, so you see how they just kind of ramp and they're kind of sloppy and things like that. So all he was doing is putting the blade up to it and saying how far would it go down, and watching the needle hit the 1, the 2, the 3, or the 4. So after doing that, Brian has the cuts that he needs. So I'm gonna let Brian cut an original, because he has the cuts that he needs to do now. So he's gonna go ahead and cut I'm not gonna show you the pattern because it could be a customer's cut. So, but what it is, you have on this particular one, you have 8 cuts. So he rolled the wheel to the machine to it, put the blade on it, said, okay, that one's a 2, this one's a 3, this one's a 4, or whatever. He got that pattern. And the reason why he's doing that is if we cut it back to spec, then the wafers will match and line up flush, and it'll work in the cylinder. If we don't, we use the wear, then some might snag, some might be too high, some might be too low. So it's a little noisy here, but I'm gonna let Brian go ahead and cut the key here. This is a HPC Blitz machine, otherwise known as a 1200 CMB, and it comes with a book of cards and a stack of blades that you can see right up here on top of the machine. And depending on the type of key, will depend on what blade he needs to use and what card he needs to use. So this is a double-sided key, so he's going to go ahead and cut the other side here in a second. And then we're going to take the 2003 Toyota Tundra cylinder, which is this door cylinder right here. We have one broken down right there already. He's basically going to, he broke down the cylinder, and then he's going to take the key that he cuts now, match the wafers to it, and pin it up. So he's just finished cutting the last side of the key right now. So if you have a worn key, sometimes we can key it up to it, make some minor adjustments on it, and then get it to work. But it's best if you can to cut an original key, go back, and then pin it the right way. But on some vehicles, there are also transponder chips inside of those head of the keys, so it could be expensive for someone to do that. So if you can get away without recutting it because it's worn, some people would like to do that, because then they don't have to buy a completely new transponder key and then try to, you know, have to make a whole new chip key, have to go through programming again and create a whole new one. So this one doesn't have a chip in it, so it's just cut it back to specs, key it up to the way it should go, and then you're good to go. So we'll come over here and we'll show you how we pin up this cylinder.
Hey guys, so we got the keys here, brand new key. As you can tell, we got nice sharp teeth on it, cut per spec. And then we have over here our old worn key, which is rounded off and obviously worn. So what we're gonna do is come over here to the cylinder, and then as you can see in here, we have the different slots that correlate with the different cuts. And we'll be using this A30-108 keying kit for Toyota. And that has our wafers in it that correspond with the different depth cuts for the key. We line it all up in the cylinder here, make sure everything's flush, good to go. That way it can turn inside of the housing that the cylinder goes into. So we're gonna go and start keying it up.
So while he keys it up, I'll talk to you on this. So basically in each chamber, you have a spring that drops down, and then you have the wafer that goes down on top of it. And as you push down the wafer, it's hitting against that spring that you put in there, and it gives it spring action. So after, what he did is he took the key to the machine, the old worn key, deciphered it and said, you know, well, this one's going down to a 3.5. That means it probably was a 3 before, and he writes down his numbers. Then after he gets his layout, then he has a factory spec key that he can key directly to the corresponding wafer, and without having the wafer sit too high or too low. It's usually too low. If it's on a worn key, it'll fall below the shear line, causing it to hook into something and not turn smoothly. So we have 2 door cylinders that a customer dropped off. He's basically just keying up one of them here for you to that new deciphered original key. And that we don't have any problems later on too, because whenever you have to change the key, sometimes you'll make that original and then you'll go back to the door, and now in the door it's working weird because there was worn wafers and now you have an original key. So most locksmiths can pull those door cylinders or pull those ignition cylinders and bring them in, break them down, kind of like he's doing right now. And then after we break them down, we'll just change all the wafers in it, make a new key, or make it match, or whatever it is we have to do. But that's a lot of the stuff that we do in the automotive side of locksmithing. So that's what he's doing right now. And as he does it, when he gets a couple of these keyed up here, he'll show you how flush they are once the right key is inserted with the correct pattern. So we're gonna let him key this up for a second, and we'll pick right back up in a second.
Alrighty guys, so this is basically the cylinder. After you get it all keyed up, everything should be nice and flat, so that way as soon as we pop it into the housing, it turns over nice and smooth.
Which it does. And then finished product looks like that. So once it's all put back together, it's spring loaded, so it flicks back and forth. Nice and smooth both ways. You can even turn the key over if you wanted to, and works just fine that way too. So it's like a little hard to hold, so that's why it looks like it's snagging. It's not, it's just my hand's not able to grab it. Anyway, hopefully that shows you a little bit about what we do and how we can break down a worn key and how to fix it. So basically you just reverse engineer it. You put it on an originator machine, you pull the blade up to it, look at the differences, and recalculate it, decipher it, and then test that deciphering key with pinning it up directly to the key you cut, and then you'll know if the key works fine, and then you're good to go. So it's not the end of the world if you have a worn key that you're not able to get working on your car or whatever. Give us a call, Guardian Safe and Lock. We can take care of it. We have many techs here that can handle your automotive needs for rekeying. So thank you for tuning into another video. Hopefully this was educational and you learned some things. Don't forget to hit the subscription button and the bell icon for notifications. And don't forget to check out our other 2 YouTube channels. We have Udropreneur and we have Guardian Safe and Lock. I mean, Guardian Approved, sorry, this is Guardian Safe and Lock. Guardian Approved, and we have Udropreneur, UDROPRENEUR. All 3 channels have different types of content. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're on all the social media platforms, and thanks for tuning in.